All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. So, it's time to talk about the two new Grineer weapons we've gotten access to over the course of the last couple weekends of the event that's been going on. We, of course, have the Tonkat and the Attack and Lug, which is, of course, a Sword and Shield for the Attack and Lug, and then a Tonfa's pair for the Tonkat. And these two weapons, available at MR9, which is going to be important, are pretty solid. I do like the Attack and Lug much more than the Tonkat, but the Tonkat is also worth discussing, though it is a strange one. We're going to talk about the Tonkat first and then get into the Attack and Lug, as the Attack and Lug is a little more cut and dry with just how good it is. So, for the Tonkat, this is the build. And if you're familiar with how melee weapons are built, you'll note that this is kind of weird looking. We have some of the usual suspects: Weeping Wounds, Blood Rush, Galvanized Steel, so on and so forth. We are, of course, on Influence, and we got electricity damage in this thing. But the weird bit is that we're on Focus Energy, which is 40% heavy attack efficiency, and we're on Galvanized Reflex, which is 50% heavy attack efficiency, which are normally only found in heavy attack exclusive builds, and even in those, usually it's only Galvanized Reflex and not Focus Energy. So why are we on those here? Well, we're on those here because the unique trait for the Tonkat was designed in hell by demons. This unique trait is Increasing Combo Multiplier, grants 4% heat damage for 15 seconds, which stacks up to 30 times. So, Increasing Combo Multiplier does not mean hit one guy and you get one stack. Lord, do I wish that that were the case. This is, you need to actually have the multiplier go from like 2 to 3 to 4 to so on and so forth, from 11 to 12, yada yada, so on and so forth. Which means that we cannot get the usual thing of just putting Tennokai in this, because whenever we do Tennokai heavies, we don't lose any combo, which means we can't gain any combo. And also, this 15 seconds is not a one stack of this falls off at a time situation. They all fall off together, which is pretty rough. The benefits, though, are that this heat damage is a separate heat instance, which means it is always separate from all other elementals, which means you can use electricity to turn on influence and then get the heat procs from this unique trait, which will then be spread by influence, which not a lot of weapons can do without Ember having them equipped, which is pretty good. It's also, quite a bit of heat damage. Notable that this heat damage currently doesn't work correctly and doesn't increase the status damage of heat, but that's kind of a current problem with a lot of different things right now, which hopefully will get sorted out. So, the reason that we are on these is we need to lose just a little bit of combo, which means that 90% heavy attack efficiency will let us duck our combo and then hit some guys and build it right back up to try and keep this going so we can get access to all that additional damage. Now, the good news is that this is kind of worth it. This weapon is pretty strong. I would say that this is the strongest Tonfa weapon in the game that is not the Praetos, which is not a colossally high bar, but does put it over things like the Cronin Prime, which have been meta contenders in the past. And I like it overall. Hopefully, whenever it's on the Ghouls, which is where it's going to be moving to after these event weekends on the 21st, hopefully it's going to be pretty easy to farm, because I do think this is a viable option for like a newer player to build and put together, as there is like I did some new build testing. If you want to see what a new player build looks like, it's right here. This is just like kind of like a much more accessible thing, like using Reflex Coil instead of the Galvanized, so on and so forth. This is a thing you can put together as like a new player relatively easily, even the max copies of Influence. I know that might seem inaccessible, but it's really not. And this has also performed very well, even at the levels I'm about to show. This is the full build, though, and the enemies that we normally would show it against are, of course, going to be the level 230 corrupted enemies, which are quite resilient to most things. So these guys, just like going in here, you can build combo really fast, and you can see in the top right, I have that going up to the 11x combos. Once I'm at max, of course, I can unleash just like, a bunch of heavies in a row. That's going to get all of the bonus damage, and we can just, start chopping, basically. With 9% heavy attack efficiency, we can stay at those high multipliers for quite a while, which is of benefit. And then, of course, just building back up. Although, you did see one of the downsides here is that if you are not building combo for long enough, which is just 15 seconds, you will lose all of your stacks at once. So right now I have 9 seconds to build another stack of combo. Otherwise, I will lose it all. You can see it resets on each stack. But yeah, losing all of the buff at once is pretty bad, especially whenever you're losing it, even whenever you're at max combo and still attacking enemies. But the buff itself is decent. Overall, these weapons are good, like they clearly perform well, but they're a bit finicky in what they want you to do to get the most out of their passive. and they mostly rely on their good stats otherwise to get them by, as opposed to relying entirely on this unique trait. You can put a just totally regular build on here that just does Tennokai stuff and influence things and ignores the unique trait, but just gets its benefits when it can. But this build is not only cheaper, as you can see I have some additional capacity here, it also, I find, works about the same or a little better in certain cases, and does allow you to spam heavies one after another, which not a whole lot of builds let you do. So that's the Tonkat. If it's easily accessible from ghouls, it'll be good and be a weapon that is like not a bad thing to use or a bad thing to get in ETA or EDA or anywhere else. Now, on the other hand, though, we have the Tack and Lug. Now, the Tack and Lug, I'm just going to go ahead and say it, are the best sword and shield, I think. These are very, very good. They're much better than, of course, the Incarnate Sword and Shield, which is Ek and Brunt, which is terrible. Wasn't very good anyway. But these are easily the strongest sword and shield. And the reason for that is because their unique passive was made in heaven by angels. This unique trait is so insanely good. This is a unique heavy attack only for the Tack and Lug. And it not only is a unique heavy attack that hits a wide area, as it describes, also, every hit of this unique heavy attack inflicts blast status. Now, we've talked about a bit in the past that blast status is really, really good when you get it for free. And getting it for free here, in a situation where you can proc melee influence, which it can be spread by, and it's on heavy attacks, which are one of the things that can actually scale blast status, means that it is in prime position to be absolutely stellar. Now, in terms of the build, usual suspect stuff here. This is the build that you will see being the, hey, I'm going to run influence on this weapon, what do I put on it? And usually it's going to be this. This is where we're at. And this is insanely effective. This is a weapon that is, honestly, in terms of its damage output, able to compete with some Incarnins with this build, which is hugely impressive for a weapon you can get at MR9 and hopefully relatively easily. You can see this is like, I'm just at like, 6x combo or so and able to just like absolutely trounce these groups of enemies. 7x combo and the enemies are dead. Absolutely tremendously powerful. So much so that we are going to also show a new player version of this build that I think is really impressive for the insanely low bar. That was also just 9x combo, still not at 12x. An insanely powerful weapon. There's also some funny heavy attack stuff that you can do with this that really scales the damage all the way to hell. If you're using like Mirage and using like Thermal Sunder and such like that to boost it up with its augment and everything. But even without doing all that, this weapon is just stellar, and I think the best sword and shield. To exemplify that, here's the new player build. So this is really, really low requirements. It does come with this D polarity by default, which you won't use if you're on a new player style build. And I believe this build takes one forma from a new player, but we're using sticks and stones here. This is Pressure Point, Reach, Fury, and Organ Shatter, and Mentor's Legacy, all of which are mods that are given to you during your progress through Warframe story, the top 4 being given to you basically instantly. Blood Rush and Weeping Wounds, really easy to farm just from a couple Deimos bounties, you're very likely to get these. And Shocking Touch, which is also insanely common. Common to the point where you could ask any player over MR10 to give you one, and they probably just would. And Melee Influence at rank 2. Obviously, we discussed that a max rank influence is really not that hard to get, but I wanted to use a lower rank influence just to show how insanely strong this is. Also, we're downgrading our stance to 11th Storm, which is much easier to get than Final Harbinger, just to show just how good this weapon is. So these are the level 230 Steel Path Corrupted units still, and it is quite good. Getting like the heavy attacks off Mentor's Legacy, you can see that like we're able to clear regular enemies pretty effectively. And of course, the heavier units with no buffs are going to take a bit more work with our, pitiful selection of mods that we're utilizing. But even they are going to be worked through pretty quickly. You might still want to use Mercies and stuff if you are using this absolute sludge of a build on these enemies. But again, I didn't get to 12x combo to clear them. And this is like baby's first melee influence build. Like, chances are good that if you have, like, gotten to the point where you're even able to see the enemies I just killed with this, you have way better better modding capabilities than what I'm showing off here. So that's just to exemplify just how good the Tack and Lug are. I think this is an exemplary weapon, and it's one that, provided whenever Tack and Lug and the Tomcat get moved to the Ghouls event, as a new player, I would be looking to see how easy these are to farm, because they are so powerful. And especially if you just like a sword and shield and want to use that, this is a fantastic place to go. And even without something like Influence, this weapon will perform fantastic for all of regular path at the very least. I mean, guaranteed blast procs just are what they are, and help with some of the range considerations that are going to be more problematic for earlier game. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be very interested to see how easy these are to farm for the next free-to-play through and stuff that's going to be coming up. But they're two really solid weapons. The Tonkat, that passive could definitely be designed better, but the Tack and Lug, I have few to no complaints. Weapon is absolutely stellar, and you know I always love a unique heavy attack. But yeah, that's going to do it for just a short overview on these. Hopefully you guys grabbed these over the course of the last couple weekends they were available. If not, as of the release of this video, at least the parts are available on Alert. So go check them out. Very happy with Attack and Lug in particular, though. Hey everybody, it's time to thank the patrons that are hanging around and supporting the channel. So, to start with that, the $10 patrons are Atheon, Alex Farnham, Arbiter Daydream, Barkus, Benuven, Blotomatic, Brutus Salazar, Candelathra, Blob World, Dylan Dworsky, Athrain, James Hearththorne, JC4 Science, Josh, Luzanth, Vicotel, Michta, Nerve, Ruby, Sanyu, Sharp247, The Coupon of Death, Waifu Wars, Wodad01, and Zeraphir. Also, thanks, of course, to all of the other patrons for supporting the channel. It is much appreciated. It's a little sneak peek on what we're getting into. There's going to be a lot more of these kind of big re-reviews of weapon types and their new builds and stuff, as things changed a lot at the end of last year. And of course, there's also planned new free-to-play before we get into any more big updates. So look forward to that.